All right, guys, I am super excited for this. I found out about this a couple of weeks ago, and I've been able to keep it quiet. So I'm not even going to waste a lot of time on this. You've seen him on Life with the Walter Boys. He's plays Cole on there. He's an perfect character, perfect role for Noah LaLonde, and he's here to tell us about his new movie that he's one of the main characters in, Deer Camp 86. Welcome to the show, Noah.
Thank you so much for having me. It's my pleasure to be here.
So let's start with this. Obviously, you're on here because we want to promote the new movie, Deer Camp 86, that just got released in theaters. I know it's playing in a theater not too far from me, and we're going to talk about that. But we have to start with Life with the Walter Boys. What has that done for you since that has started playing on Netflix?
That's a great question. It's changed my life in pretty much every way, and the way that it has made people who didn't know who I was before know who I am now. It's given my career the ability to have another day, and it's given me a place to find some fulfillment in just being able to be an artist and be an actor. And I know a lot of people work really hard for a really long time to have a sliver of the opportunity that this show gave me. And the type of people I've got to meet have been amazing. And uh yeah, it's just kind of changed the course of my career as an actor, in almost every way. So it's been a treat. But most importantly, with both the show and the movie, I've been able to finally do something that I can share with all the people I love. Because for so long it was, oh yeah, I worked on this little short film, and it's probably never gonna come out, or hey, I did this little indie thing, and you may never see it, but it kind of made people that I know believe me when I said I was an actor.
Oh,
So.
there you go. So tell people if they haven't seen Life with the Walter Boys, give your best description of what the movie is. Because I honestly look at it as uh, like a brotherly, obviously, competition type situation, kind of like Supernatural, but in a whole different shade of light. You guys are not the Winchester brothers, but give people a description if they haven't seen it.
Of Walter Boys, not.
Yes.
So, yeah, Walter Boys is I think it's a really great family show that kind of sets you into this world where there's two things going on. There's our main character, played by Nikki Rodriguez, is Jackie Howard, and her world gets flipped upside down. She loses her family in an accident, and then enters the other part of the show, which is this enormous Walter family, where there is nothing but surplus when it comes to family members. So she comes from her fashion, kind of high class New York lifestyle into her godmother's home in rural Colorado, where there's 10 people in the house, horses, dogs, swimming pool, and you're on a ranch, and chaos ensues. She is going through all the things that I think a normal high school girl will go through with navigating your own feelings and emotions, but then you mix in the fact that you just lost all the people that you care about. And it's just this recipe for a coming of age chaos tale for her, and it gets to take that romantic turn when I think she gels with some of the brothers more than others, and then that's kind of where that gets set in action, and then you kind of watch it unfold, and you have a pretty entertaining story of some competitive brothers, some real love story, and I think a tale of finding family. So you mix all that together and you have My Life with the Walter Boys.
It's an awesome show. The first season was obviously a huge hit. Am I under the correct assumption that there is already a green light for a season two?
Yes, we received the very we were very excited to receive a pretty quick renewal from the first season. So we're gearing up hopefully to get that in action pretty soon. But yeah, we're super excited about that because I think the reception has been great, and a lot of people have really enjoyed it. And it makes it even more exciting to get to do more, both for the fact that it is so creatively fulfilling for me and all of our wonderful cast, but also that there are people that are anticipating it. And um, it's really cool thing to be a part of.
All right. No, let's talk about why you're on here. Now, obviously, people know what we do on here. We don't you typically bring on people that are starring in family, shows. We're usually all about the horror, and you're on here because Deer Camp 86. Now, this
Yeah.
is this is something you've been working on for a long time, and you're from Michigan,
Yes.
and you got a chance to film this movie in Michigan, it's my understanding. Tell everybody the premise of the movie. Obviously, you don't want to give too much of it away because we want people to go see it. But
Yeah.
tell me a little bit about when you guys started making this, the difficulties you had making it through timing and I guess COVID and everything else that might have come involved, and how you got to where you're at now. What kind of feelings you have towards where it's at right now, being in theaters.
Yeah, absolutely. First off, if you are either, I feel like there are probably two different listeners here. One version that are used to your show that are saying, who is this guy that did this, this teen love story Netflix show? And then there are probably some people that might have watched that show and said, what is this podcast like? So there's very much, they don't know the other side. So they are different. These two things are very different. So the thing I last described, the Walter Boy show, you can start by the complete opposite. That's what Deer Camp 86 is. But the way it intertwines in my own life and my career is pretty fun and interesting. So back in 2020, obviously COVID was kind of at its peak, at its beginning, and it was right around the time that I decided I was going to be an actor full time. So I was sent a casting call audition from an old acting coach, and this was probably October of 2020. And I read for this part, and I got a call the next day, and um, I got the part. So it was the timeline of it is so interesting because I had not moved to Los Angeles. I had not worked on this Netflix show. I had not really done much of note to this point. So I was just super excited to have any opportunity to be an actor, let alone one where I got to film a movie in my home state, which is a few hours north of me in beautiful Ludington, Michigan. And if you see the movie, the setting, the Michigan, the northern Michigan woods and forests. It's really a character in the film. So to be able to do that was just a dream come true as it was happening. And we were on set for, like you said, it was it was tight quarters. So we were in COVID, so we had a tight group, and we all got our tests. We all made sure we were good, and then we kind of packed into this little group, and we made this movie. We were in the woods, literally, and when we weren't there, we were staying at this little motel together, which was it's just a beautiful area. So you're right by the water, and it's fall. The leaves are changing, so you have that spooky environment around you. I always liken it to those movies where you have like the Disney, like the Hocus Pocus. You have that setting that is the leaves falling, everything is good, it's Halloween, and what could go wrong? And we kind of were living in that, both in the way that we're right up there up north and in a cabin in the woods, as my eye catches the poster over there.
Yeah.
And we're also making a movie where, deer camp happens right in that same time of year, and it's supposed to be a good thing. It's supposed to be a fun brotherly bonding type of trip, and it's kind of the same setting. It's like you're about to have a great weekend. And I know I'm a little all over the place here, but to pick back up with where the kind of a little synopsis of the movie without giving too much away, six best friends going up to deer camp. Spirits are high, everyone's excited. There's a lot of alcoholic beverages flowing, and very quickly it becomes a tale more so of understanding the karmic forces of the natural world, of you know the native land. One of the things about this movie is, as fun as it is, and both comedically and with the horror elements, there's a great message of which we've talked about at length. But one of the inspirations for the film was the ongoing issue that is missing and murdered Indigenous women and people, which is an issue that has plagued the Native community for a long time. So in all of the fun that this movie was, we worked closely with some local tribal indigenous women and people, and they were a part of the process and making sure that everything was displayed in a way they felt comfortable with. Some of them had I don't want to give anything away, but they had parts in embodying that spirit that ends up being a big part of this movie. So there's all these things going on, but to keep it brief, six friends going up for an unsuspecting great time with each other, a lot of beers, a lot of deer camp, and it becomes a story of you're going to pay for what you did. The natural world, the native spirits are a lot stronger than you think, and you can't keep getting away with this. And that's kind of the brief summary I'd give for having watched it so many times now and having watched so many different groups of people watch it, there's so many new things that they tell me stood out to them or they tell me they enjoyed. And so I think ultimately it's a movie you can have a lot of fun with. And I think it's a movie that you can take a really wonderful message out of, but you can also not take it too seriously because it is pulled all the way back to 1986. And there's some elements that are really aware of themselves, but also really indicative of the time. And they almost seem shocking, a little jarring when you hear them in the theater. But I think that kind of sets the tone for what world they're in. So um, yeah, I would say that's my little brief synopsis. And I know you mentioned some of the challenges, but I'd love to touch base. I have a tendency to be pretty tangent oriented when asking questions in this setting. So, um, what did I miss in my response for you?
What about how you feel about the movie finally coming out, finally being released on theaters so people can actually see it, aside from maybe some festivals that there was a part of?
Yeah, definitely. I think that is a that is very similar to how when you asked me how the Netflix show it changed a lot of things for me. This kind of continues in that vein of, is this really happening to me? That this is crazy. Because like I said, we filmed in October of 2020, and as much as I was excited about hearing something the next week I got home, that just doesn't happen in this business. I've come to learn. You can put a ton of work into something, it can absorb nearly your whole life, but as soon as it's over, that version of it is over, and you have to do a lot of waiting and you have to do a lot of wondering. And that was the story with this. So that's kind of when I personally got busy trying to plan my move to Los Angeles, trying to plan the next steps of my career. So I was able to do that pretty freely, eventually letting go of the result of this whole thing. And by the time I finally moved to LA, I had got a call that the movie was going to be having a little screening, and it's like, oh, it's it's still alive. It's still out there. And having filmed it in northern Michigan, I remember thinking to myself, wow, I've just gotten to LA, and the, it's a different, it's almost a different culture. It's a different crowd. So I was anxious to see how it would be received, but the laughter was the same, the jumps were the same, and I said to myself, kind of, this could be cool. This could be really cool. And again, after that, I kind of let it go, and I went on to get the part of my life with the Walter Boys and film that. And the actor strike came about. I got word that our show was coming out. Everything kind of again veered toward the new things I was doing. Walter Boys comes out as a ton of success that I'm incredibly grateful for. And then as that starts to become a little bit of the new norm, I start to hear about the everything deer camp related, and that there might be a couple festival things we might be attending, and including Dallas and the Dallas International Film Festival, which was a great time, and again another time for me to experience a new audience taking all of this in. and from seeing people enjoy it, both both across the entire this whole spectrum of people now that I had some fans of the show that were there. They enjoyed the show. Okay, so there's a crossover element. People can enjoy both.
Nice.
There was a new slew of just completely people from that area that I had never met. They seemed to enjoy it. Okay, now maybe it's universally accepted. And we even had some local native women from Dallas that I got to have the pleasure to speak with, and they were really pleased with it. So, okay, this is doing. I've never seen someone tell me to my face that they didn't enjoy it, and and then I get the word that this theatrical release is going to be happening, and it kind of is this. It's like the tale of what these last few years have been for me. Learning to let go of learning to enjoy the thing while I'm doing it, and letting the results and what comes next just come to me without forcing it. And to get these calls that something's going to be happening like this, we're going to get to go back to Michigan. We're going to get to promote it a little bit. I'm going to get to be with my family, the people who, again, I'm so grateful to have sharing all this stuff with me. So it was all of that excitement, but then in the back of my mind, I was also excited because I think it's a really fun movie, and I think it's something that I've watched enough different people enjoy in ways that I didn't even know if I expected, because it's hard to remove yourself from the final product and maybe what it could be. So I've seen it from I've watched so many people enjoy it that it makes me really excited, and to have the process be almost nearly 4 years, um, it's kind of a testament to what life can be. It doesn't always happen right away, but when it happens, it's kind of the perfect timing because I'm as excited as ever about it. And as I can continue to do some research on your show and see your background, the horror genre isn't something that I will attempt to claim expertise over, but I see the passion for it, and it's been pretty cool to interact with some of those fans at some of these different screenings and festivals, and that passion is so alive, and to be just have a sliver of that, taking in something that I got to be a part of is really special, and kind of inspires me to revisit some of my favorite classics, and kind of see how ours stacks up, not even stacks up, but just the types of feelings that those old ones make me feel, and the new ones. The genre can change so much over. I'm 26, but over 30, 40 years, the way movies are made changes so much, but specifically the way movies in different genres get made, and the way they're enjoyed, and the way that you know cult classics get made, and what works and what doesn't. It's been really fascinating to kind of watch all that happen.
So let me ask you this without pigeonholing the movie. You mentioned Cabin in the Woods earlier. You
Mm.
mentioned there's obviously comedic elements as along with the horror elements. Would you put this in the same type of category as a Cabin in the Woods or Evil Dead or those type of movies that are a mixture of comedy and horror without comparing you to those exact movies, but would you say it's along those lines?
Y- I'm going to be so transparent with you. I haven't seen Cabin in the Woods. I I just know that every time I talk about the movie, I talk about literally being in a cabin in the woods, and and so I've been forced to and then as I was saying, and I saw it on your wall. So I wouldn't even. I've never been a fan of comparison. It just generally because working on something, one, eh, the process of trying to understand what it is while you're doing it such a task. And then when it comes out, comparing that with what you had in your mind can be so cognitively dissonant for you. So having done that with the show and having done that with the movie, I always have a hard time comparing because the way people absorb stuff is so different. But I don't know. In my head, I feel like I feel like I don't want to say it's along that same line because I don't know. And I don't really know if I have a cohesive answer for why, but it feels like when I watch the movie, there are times when I watch it and I think, man, that's a funny movie. I mean, I was laughing a lot, and I'll walk out of the theater and I'll talk to some of the people who watch it, and they'll say, "You didn't tell me it was so scary." And I'm like, well, yeah, I guess, but like I said, you get
Yeah.
numb to watching yourself work in something, and then sometimes I'll watch it, I'm like, man, that actually is scarier than I thought. Like, I was kind of on my toes the whole time, and then I'll come out and I'll hear someone say something completely different, but I think it kind of touches nicely. It breezes over, like I said, both genres pretty fluently. So. I would be far more interested in hearing. Have you seen the movie?
I haven't. I've seen the trailer about 4 times, but I haven't seen the movie yet.
I would be far more interested to hear someone like yourself who has such a familiarity with horror specifically, how it ranks amongst like that question you asked me. I'd love to hear your answer post seeing it, or someone of the same sort of feeling. Oops, sorry. Um, because like I said, I have such a I don't know. I know that I've seen so many people interpret it differently. So it makes me interested to hear other opinions more so than whatever I have of them.
We're talking to Noah LaLonde. He's a star, one of the stars, I should say, of Life of the Walter Boys on Netflix, and the movie that was just released, Deer Camp '86. It's gotten great reviews. It definitely by the trailer, and I'll put the trailer up on our site so people can see that. But the trailer looks to me like something that if I didn't know anything about it and it just came on TV, I'd be like, well, we're going to the movies to see this weekend. It would definitely be a first weekend type movie for me. And there's not a whole lot of those out there, for me that I feel like that I have to go see as soon as it comes out. But this would definitely be one of them. It looks like a fantastic movie. It looks like it would be a fun ride. And it's right up my alley for the type of movies I like the most.
Yeah. Like I've said versions of now, probably more in the last 2 weeks than ever, but I've been shocked at the variety of people who have kind of said something similar. And I think the best way to describe it is that it is a really fun ride. And you get to know these guys quick and you feel like you're on the trip with them. And you always kind of feel like like something's going on that maybe you don't fully understand. And before you know it, you're kind of right smack in the thick of, oh, I didn't understand it. And now I am in it. So I think it is fun, and I think I've kind of consistently seen people have a good time, laughing with that bewildered look on their face when they walk out, and there's nothing that brings me more joy than to see that.
I'll tell you a funny story. We have you're from the area, so you know as well as I do, even if it's not reality, Detroit kind of has a national reputation as, oh no, that place is, it's just a violent place, or it's a whatever the case is. Doesn't mean it's true. And we've got a really good friend that lives in Detroit, and we decided we were going to do a show up there last year. So we went up June and July and did a live event up in the Detroit area. And I thought it was funny because we would kid around about that with one of our really good friends that lives in the Detroit area, and we would kid around, and she would get so offended by the fact that she was like, "It's not like that at all. Wait till you get up here." And I got to honestly say, when we went up there, it's a place I would definitely come back to. It was absolutely beautiful. It was nothing like in my head what I thought, but I did think it was funny that in the trailer of the movie, the one character says, "I'm going back to Detroit where it's safe," or something like that. But he said something along the same lines, and I thought, see, everybody must think that, even people from the area. They put it in the movie.
Yeah, I think when you hear something enough in like the mainstream, there's definitely a feeling of embodying that thing. I've I've heard it my whole life, if you're going into the city, which I think in any
That's
city,
everywhere. Yeah.
yeah, there's always in any place there's always areas where maybe are less safe than others. But for whatever reason, I think that's another thing about the movie is there's a lot of those fun moments where especially now watching it, what, 30 years, 28 years later than when it is set in, you're like, oh, well, yeah, that's a thing that people have said and they still say sometimes. There's a lot of those little allusions to, man, if somebody in the future watched this, they'd probably think it's pretty funny. It knows what it is, the movie. But yeah, I also have a friend. I'm probably 30 minutes north of Detroit. But one of my best friends lives there, and I was there 2 days ago for some of the Grand Prix. They're having a racing event in the city, which is very cool. But as I've become an adult, I love Detroit. I think it's a fantastic area to hang out, and especially when the sports teams are rocking. And the NFL draft was just there. They had
Hmm.
record breaking numbers. So I think it's for me, it almost feels like a joke that I'm in on was something like a quip like that in the movie is yeah, everyone talks about it, so I guess we'll kind of join in on it. But I think even to be very detailed in the last 10 years, like I said, these are my formative years, but in the last 10 years I've seen a lot of which feels like a lot of money and care put into the restoration of some areas of Detroit and I've certainly enjoyed being back every time I'm back, but that is a great line. A lot of people comment on that line in the trailer. So
So no, the movie is out at theaters. Deer Camp '86 was also the year I graduated, so I'm excited about that part of it. Bring back
you'll
some
really know.
memories.
You'll really be able to give us a good comparison if it was tells the story of the time.
So aside from being out at theaters, is it also out streaming as well?
Not currently. Not
Okay.
currently. I don't have all the answers on this topic, but I know that there's work being done as to where it'll be post theatrical run. So as you can imagine, for my out of state friend, or not that it's not out of state, but there's a sporadic places where that
Right.
is. So I have a lot of questions about that, and I'm deferring them to. I'll have the answer soon, hopefully.
Tell everybody how they can keep up with you and your career as far as social media and what have you, and how they can find out more about the movie.
Yeah, I my main platform is I'd say Instagram is where I'm most active. That's Noah LaLonde, uh, and we keep up with. I try to keep up with everything I'm working on, and most recently you'll see the Deer Camp trailer, the little snippet trailer that we cut for social media, and there's a Deer Camp movie Instagram page deercamp86.com. I believe it would be the link for all things deer camp, showtimes, any information on streaming. And yeah, I would say Instagram, Facebook, there's a lot of information being spread and a lot of the reactions from the movie, a lot of images from different theaters and images from some of the characters and actors being there in theaters. So yeah, Instagram, Facebook, Deer Camp 86 movie. Noah Lalonde separately and yeah, all over.
And guys, on Instagram, he's just a hair under 1 million. So if you hear this, go ahead and follow Noah on Instagram. I think you're like when I looked, you're like 986,000 or something like it. It might be even more now, but you're not too far away from 1 million.
Yeah, we're getting there slowly, slow and steady. Like I said, the whole last few years have been crazy, but it's definitely people will always my family are like, "Hey, did you see?" I'm like, I got a whiff of it. Yeah, I heard about it.
Noah, thank you so much for coming on the show. I can't help but to wish you much success in everything you do in the future. I hope the movie is a huge hit with the audience reviews that I've already seen and the way people are receptive to it. I can't help but to think this is going to be a blockbuster when it's all said and done.
Well, I appreciate you for having me and for those kind words, and I hope the same. Like I said, I love hearing the passion, especially from horror fans, and I hope they welcome us into their lives.
Awesome. Thank you, brother. I appreciate it.
Thank you. Appreciate it.